For years, Donald Trump used Jimmy Carter as a reliable political punching bag. Whenever he needed a catch-all foil to represent weak, ineffective Democratic leadership, Carter's single term provided the perfect material. Mocking the 39th president was a calculated rhetorical tool. By constantly reminding his base of Carter's perceived failures, Trump was able to elevate his own brand, projecting an image of tough, unyielding, and decisive leadership. Then, in 2026, he made a surprising pivot. When asked why he aborted a recent military strike, Trump gave a highly unusual explanation, saying, "I didn't feel like being Jimmy Carter." The context for that quote is entirely tactical. Trump was explaining his refusal to send U.S. Special Forces into an Iranian facility to extract enriched uranium, the highly processed nuclear material required to fuel reactors or build weapons. A president who built his entire political identity on projecting absolute power is now comparing himself to the very man he used as a punchline. He finds himself trapped in a nearly identical set of crises, forcing a reassessment of his own legacy. Back in 1980, Jimmy Carter's presidency was deeply scarred and politically paralyzed by high inflation. The high cost of living drained his political capital and left his administration with few options. Today, the current administration is fighting the exact same stubborn inflation. Despite promises to tame it, the rising cost of fuel and consumer goods continues to drag on the modern economy. Trump long insisted that his business background would allow him to bypass these issues, yet those promised easy fixes have failed to provide relief for American households. This economic strain creates a baseline of domestic vulnerability. When a president is struggling to lower costs at home, any foreign policy failure becomes far more damaging to their political standing. For Carter, that vulnerability turned into a crisis when 52 Americans were taken hostage in Iran in 1979. Looking at this map, we see the defining bottleneck of the 2026 crisis. The U.S. military is currently escalating a war in Iran and moving to control the Strait of Hormuz, a move that places mounting strategic pressure on both nations. The most painful echo of the past is Carter's 1980 Desert One rescue mission. The attempt to extract the hostages ended in a collision in the Iranian desert that killed 8 American servicemen. That memory of 1980 now acts as a filter for current options. By explicitly invoking the Carter name, the president signaled that the risk of a high-profile tactical failure was a significant factor in his choice to hold back his own forces. The White House officially rejects any comparison to the past. A spokesperson recently stated that the president is a laser-focused leader who remains dedicated to unapologetically advancing American interests. However, national security experts argue that the president isn't acting as a student of history. Instead, they suggest he is reacting instinctively to the optics of a bad political outcome. In this scenario, history functions as an active tactical deterrent. The risk of repeating a specific, well-known failure has become a core variable in how the administration calculates its military moves. The administration is realizing they have kicked over a geopolitical hornet's nest. They are now entrenched in a conflict with no immediate exit strategy. A protracted, unresolvable situation undermines the brand of absolute executive control that has defined Trump's political career. The stakes are incredibly high. The combination of stubborn inflation and the Iranian crisis cost Jimmy Carter his 1980 re-election against Ronald Reagan. By publicly noting that the failed mission cost them the election, Trump demonstrates he is acutely aware of how these parallel crises could threaten his own political survival. An executive can command a news cycle, but they cannot bypass historical cycles. By stepping into the exact same economic and military traps, Trump has inadvertently bound his historical legacy to the man he once held up as the ultimate cautionary tale.